Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Retirement is supposed to be time to relax, and, financial mistakes, unfortunately, can make it a little stressful. Today, we're talking about some of the top retirement challenges and some ways to help avoid them. Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm Stephanie Griffin, and I'm joined today by Philip Statler, founder and president of the Statler Financial Services. Good morning, Philip. How are you today?
Good morning, Stephanie. Doing well today. It is great to be with you on the radio. And I think we've got some interesting stuff to talk about when it comes to avoiding some of those pitfalls that folks may not realize they're falling into.
Right. And I'm sure that sneaks up on people on occasion. So before we dive in, why do you think people make these kinds of errors, talking about financial mistakes in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a lot of it comes down to not having a clear plan or a clear picture or understanding how different financial decisions can impact their long-term goals. Things really change when we go from working to retired. Retirement is a big transition. I mean, it really is. And so it's easy to start to feel overwhelmed by all the moving parts like taxes. People sometimes think they're going to get away from taxes, but they still seem to loom around. Investments and healthcare. Those are three big things that really start to impact people in retirement. And that's why working with a professional can make such a big difference. They can help you avoid some of these costly missteps and really keep you on track.
So what is the first mistake retirees should watch out for?
I think the first mistake is withdrawing from your savings without a plan. So think about it. Even if you saved a lot, taking random withdrawals can potentially deplete your nest egg faster than you think. Instead, we need to create a strategy for our income, for our withdrawals, so we know where that money's coming from, when it's going to come, and how long it's going to last. And that aligns with your income needs and your investment mix. And I think lastly, a financial professional can really help you determine a sustainable withdrawal rate to make your money last. Too often I see people taking out a little too much. And so there's a chance that they could run out of money. Sometimes I see people that are really conservative, not taking out enough money to really enjoy their retirement. So there's a balance there, Stephanie, that we need to make sure that we can kind of hit the mark with.
If you'd like a free visit with Philip Statler from Statler Financial, you can definitely text the word visit. You could do that by texting the word visit 863-877-1188. Didn't want to mention that number before we got more into the show, 863-877-1188. And Philip, what is something else retirees should avoid when talking about financial mistakes in retirement?
This one's pretty big. I see it happen way too often. People don't think, they just do, and they don't realize the consequences until it's too late. Taking out large withdrawals from your IRA or your 401k when the market's down. So listen, when you sell an investment during a market slump, you lock in those losses. And so, it helps to try to avoid this. And to do that, consider keeping 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash. That way, you can ride out market downturns without touching your investments. The other thing, just a little caveat here, is that taking out large withdrawals, that's taxable, folks. And so sometimes it makes sense to divide those things up between a couple tax years, which is part of the planning process that we go through.
What about investing, Philip? Are there mistakes people make there?
Yeah, there are. I think a common mistake I see is people investing too conservatively a lot of times. And the other thing I see is people actually taking on too much risk. So there's kind of this balancing act again on where we need to be. And so while it can be a good idea to reduce our risk in retirement, pulling all the way out of the stock market entirely can hurt your portfolio's overall growth. Keeping somewhere between 30 to 60% of your portfolio in stocks, again, depending on your risk tolerance and how you react to the market. And a big part of it is how that 30 to 60% is invested too, right? That's a huge part of it. Can really help generate the income you're going to need down the road. And a financial advisor can help you find that right balance, because it is. You need a balance between those two things. And so that's really the key, I think, Stephanie. And folks out there, if you're worried about possibly pitfalls in your retirement plan, one of the best things that you can do is do something. Take action. And if you're listening right now and you've saved at least $250,000 or more for your retirement, here at Statler Financial, we can help you. There's a free, no obligation analysis, but things happen fast. Our calendar does fill up fast, especially, now, right? So give us a call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. I'd love to spend 30 minutes with you on the phone to make sure that you are heading in the right direction. Again, that number is 863-877-1188.
And there's so many things in retirement, Philip. It's probably a wise decision to give you a call and talk to you about what is going on with their finances, what things look like for their retirement future. So if you're just joining us, we are talking about the top retirement mistakes that could drain your nest egg. Philip, what's another retirement challenge retirees should avoid?
Well, I think claiming your Social Security too early is a big one. I see this way too often. And unfortunately, Stephanie, this pitfall can't be reversed. Once you start taking that Social Security, you've kind of locked in to what that is. So again, we want to make sure that we do that and we understand what our options are and that we make the right decision, because again, once you make that decision, it permanently locks in everything for Social Security. I think waiting until full retirement age or even later can help folks maximize their benefit and reduce the strain on your savings. I know, you got to really have a plan in place to be able to do that. But I see people just retiring way too early for their economic circumstances.
Yeah, if you have questions about anything Philip is talking about, give him a call, 863-877-1188. That number again is 863-877-1188. Let's talk about healthcare a little bit. What mistakes are there that retirees make in healthcare?
Yeah, absolutely. I think not reviewing your Medicare plan choices each year is a common mistake. Medicare plans and drug formularies, they change every year. So it's important to review your options during that open enrollment period. You might find a plan that offers better coverage at a lower cost, and that would obviously help with our monthly outflow.
Is there anything else retirees should watch out for, Philip?
Well, I think not having enough cash on hand for emergencies is one thing. We need to keep a couple years living expenses. And I tell my clients, look, let's keep $25,000, $50,000 in savings just to make sure. It's easy to get a hold of if you need it. If the market's down, you can take money out of there instead of having to sell something. It's just a good rule of thumb for that time period. And again, it's about being prepared for the unexpected.
And, being prepared kind of seems like one of the best ways to set ourselves up for a confident retirement. It's always nice to think ahead. That's what we're trying to teach our kids, Philip, is to think ahead and look ahead and try to prepare yourselves for what's to come. What's one of the most important things to consider doing right now?
Well, again, I think take action. I think we need to take action now. But before I really kind of close out this section, I want to talk one thing. I want to talk a little bit about taxes and retirement, because so many people, the year they retire, they take a chunk of money out and they use it maybe to pay off bills. I mean, I had a client recently that retired and it was great. She was ready to retire, but she wanted to pay some things off. So she took like $60,000 out of her retirement account the same year that she retired. So she had 6-7 months worth of salary, and then she took out this extra 60 grand. Well, that really puts us in a higher tax bracket. And remember that, folks. There's other ways sometimes to skin that cat. Sometimes we take some this year and a little next year and get things paid off. Maybe not quite as fast, but we keep ourselves in a lower tax bracket, which is crucial to saving money in retirement. So listen, folks, if you're listening right now and you've saved at least $250,000 or more for retirement, this is your chance to really take control of your financial future. Here's how we can help. We'll review your financial plan to help ensure that it really aligns with your plans for retirement, the latest tax laws, market trends, and your goals. We'll identify opportunities to save on taxes, grow your wealth, and help protect that legacy. And we'll give you confidence that you're on the right track for that retirement. Folks, there's no obligation. It's just a phone call. You and I on the phone, making sure that you're heading in the right direction. Give us a call at 863-877-1188 right now to schedule your 30-minute phone call. That number again, 863-877-1188. Folks, don't hesitate. Like I said, it's important to take action now. Pick up the phone, give us a call. We will get you on the schedule to make sure that you are going the right direction. One more time, the phone number, 863-877-1188.
And definitely don't want to wait to take control of your financial future. Give Philip a call. Philip and his team at 863-877-1188 today to reserve your free analysis. That's 863-877-1188. And the Statler Financial Radio Show will be right back. Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Surprise parties can be fun.
Surprise!
Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with President and founder of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. I am Stephanie Griffin. Let's get into this a little bit on this segment. Philip, I don't know if you've ever built a house before. You never start construction without a proper foundation. Very important. Yet, surprisingly, some people approach retirement planning exactly that way, focusing on just one aspect while ignoring the crucial elements that help provide essential support and stability. So, Philip, let's talk a little bit about this. What are these essential pillars that help form the foundation of a confident retirement?
Yeah, Stephanie, let's look at that because I've never built a house. They tell me that's the one thing that will truly test your marriage is when you go to build a house. So,
it is. Speaking from experience.
So let's look at a couple things here that I think really lay kind of a foundation for our retirement. The first thing is tax efficient strategies are really often overlooked. I can't tell you, Stephanie, how many times I've sat down with folks and sometimes too late, right, to help them make a change. But they'd come in and said, Philip, we want to pay off the house, or we want to pay off the car loans, or we want to take that 401k money and take a chunk out for whatever. And they don't think about the tax aspect of what that's going to cost them in taxes. So often, especially if it's in a year in which they actually retired, they've been working. And so they've got W-2 wages, and then they want to take money out of their 401k. And so now it pushes them into a new tax bracket. One of the things that we want to try to keep them out of. And so that's an area that we want to focus on when it comes to that, because there's different strategies. It's not like you have to take it all at one time. We've helped people come up with different strategies to do things like that. Doing Roth conversions. I mean, there's all kinds of strategies that you can put together that are going to help you down the road pay the least amount of taxes possible. The second one is investment management that's appropriate for retirement. Again, that's the case where in our core retirement design, we talk about the risk analysis, and that's where this plays a role, is because people are so used to saving and putting money in their 401k, and that's great. I'm so glad and thankful they do. The problem is they don't shift gears when they retire. Mm-hmm. They've stopped working, but they've left their investments the same exact way in the same growth bucket they had them while they were working. And unfortunately, their circumstances have changed significantly because they don't have a regular income coming in anymore when it comes to that job. And then the third thing that I think is important is reliable income is crucial, that you generate reliable income on a regular basis. And let's remember the three-legged stool, right? We had the first leg was a pension, which unfortunately we really don't have a lot of times anymore. The second leg was Social Security, and the third leg was your investments and what you saved. And so we really need all three of these strategies working together to put together a plan. If we're missing one of these items, it can put your entire plan at risk, Stephanie.
That's not good. So you definitely need to pay attention, and maybe even better yet, have Philip pay attention for you. He is with the Statler Financial Services, and you can give him a call. Maybe get a second opinion if you'd like to do that. 863-877-1188. That number is 863-877-1188. Now, I know that the retirement landscape has changed dramatically from what previous generations. I know my grandparents' generation a lot different than my generation. So what specific challenges, would make having all three pillars so important today?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones, Stephanie, is we're living so much longer, right? You can figure that life expectancy is longer, so we're going to be living longer in retirement. So our investments, our portfolios have to last us 30 plus years. I mean, I know when we run our numbers, we run out to age 100. We want to make sure that there's going to be something left at age 100. People say, well, I'm not going to live that long. And I get that, but there's going to be emergencies along the way that's going to take extra money out of the plan. So we want to make sure there's something left at the end when it comes to that. The other thing I think is there's fewer guaranteed pensions. We're seeing less and less in the pension world now, especially from corporate America. We've got market volatility concerns we have to deal with. The ups and downs of the market. If you happen to retire and it's like in 2000, that year when the markets declined significantly, or like in 2008, we had huge bear markets, that can be devastating to your retirement. I've seen people actually put retirement on hold for a couple of years because of that. Then you've got rising healthcare costs, which we've all faced that. And then lastly, tax uncertainty with our growing national debt. Now, I will say that we've gotten a little bit of reprieve on the tax uncertainty, but it's still uncertain after 5 years, right? We've got some certainty for the next 5 years, so we need to take advantage of that, Stephanie.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the pillars. The first pillar, specifically, the tax-efficient strategies, Philip. Why is this sometimes an overlooked aspect of retirement planning?
Well, I think one is so many people believe that their taxes are going to be lower in retirement. And that's just a myth these days based on what I see and where our current tax brackets can be down the road. A lot of people, that's just not going to be the case. They've accumulated these huge IRAs, and when the tax man comes wanting their required minimum distributions, that's going to jack up their tax brackets. Also, then most retirement savings is held in tax deferred accounts, traditional IRAs, which means when you pull money out, Uncle Sam's there with his hand. He wants his part every time you pull money out of that account. And then I think a lot of people forget that Social Security is taxable. So many people think it's not. And there are some cases where it is not taxable, but for the most of us out there, it is or will be taxable. Up to 85% can be taxable. People don't realize that. And then I think the last thing is that people mistakenly assume that nothing can be done with their tax strategies, or there's nothing they can do different. And that's just not the case. There's a lot of things that we can do when it comes to tax planning. And so sometimes it's better to pay a little tax today to lessen the amount of tax we may have to pay down the road. And again, that's why I create my core retirement design. The design part is designing, the most efficient tax strategy you can. Give us a call at 863-877-1180 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
Well, maybe you're out today shopping, getting ready to shop in downtown Lake Placid, or you are maybe just listening to the show, hanging out at home, drinking coffee, whatever. And maybe you are putting off your financial planning. We would love you to give Philip Statler and his team a call. You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. Pick up that phone right now, 863-877-1188, 863-877-1188, or you can even go online at statlerfinancial.com. We are talking about the 3 pillars of retirement. And Philip, how do you help people evaluate the strength of each pillar in their current plan?
Well, I think what we do is we look at each area. We look at the risk, which is what causes volatility in their portfolios. And so we want to measure that risk, and we want to reduce the volatility that they may experience within their portfolio. Secondly, we're going to put together, a tax plan for them. We're going to look to see what plan do they currently have for taxes. When I sit down with most people, they don't have a plan for their taxes. They say, well, my CPA takes care of that, or my tax guy takes care of that. And so I don't have, much of a plan. I take him the stuff and get my taxes done. Folks, you need to have a tax plan in place. How can you pay the least amount of taxes for you, your spouse, your beneficiaries? What can you do to reduce your total tax impact? I think that's important. And then, of course, lastly, is you got to have income. That's the whole thing when it comes to retirement planning, is you got to have income, consistent income coming in that's going to last your entire lifetime. And that's a big deal. We need to have confidence that the income we have coming in is going to last as long as we need it to. And so I think that's, those are the pillars we need to make sure we've got firmly grounded into our circumstances.
Seems like there's a lot more challenges these days that retirees are facing. You probably agree with me on that, Philip. What would you say to someone who wants to help make sure their retirement foundation is solid?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest challenges, Stephanie, that we don't talk about as often. We've talked about it on several shows, but it doesn't take a whole show a lot of times to talk about inflation. But, inflation that we've had the last, 3 or 4 years has just been nothing. You got to go back to the 70s to see the kind of inflation that we're having right now or have had. And so that has really knocked retirees back a little bit because everything's going up. And so I think that's an area that we need to make sure that we've got a solid income foundation. That needs to be a true foundational part of your retirement plan, is that income, because we need that income to get us through the rest of our lives. Again, our core retirement design is great for that because we cover those three key aspects for you. We look at the risk in your portfolio. What that really means to you is, what's the volatility going to look like? What are the swings going to look like in my portfolio based on my current portfolio versus what I should have? Secondly is taxes. We want to put you in the best tax situation you can be in. And then we need to create income for you so that you've got the income you're going to need month in and month out. That's our core retirement design. I'd love to discuss it with you. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
And you can also text VISIT to that same number as well to get your free consultation, 863-877-1188. Coming up next, we'll explore why the investment strategies that help you build wealth during your working years might not be the best approach for retirement. Make sure you stay tuned. We've got the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit statlerfinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with President of Statler Financial, Philip Statler. Most of us spend decades focusing on growing our retirement savings, but managing this money in retirement requires a very different approach. So, Philip, why is it important to reassess investment strategies as people near retirement?
Well, I think one thing is that your focus has to shift from accumulation to distribution. And what that means, Stephanie, is that, for all those years while you're working, you've been accumulating, dumping money into the 401k, dumping money into investments, and watching them grow. Well, once you kind of switch the switch and now I'm going to be retired, now it's going to reverse. Instead of putting money in, we're going to start taking money out. And so, we want to make sure that we've got a plan in place that's going to support distribution now, because it is a different mindset, it is a different philosophy, and it is a different way to invest than when you're trying to accumulate assets for retirement. During the distribution phase, it's a totally different game. The other thing we have to look out for is market risk and volatility. They can have a pronounced impact when taking withdrawals for income. If you're taking money out and the market's going down, then every time you take money out, you're losing money. And that can be devastating to any kind of income plan or portfolio that's in place. That's why it's important that you have different buckets and that you've got different ways to diversify. If you listen to my show much at all, you know that to me, the first avenue of diversification is how much do you have market risk and how much do you have principal protected. Those are the first avenues of diversification. Before you start that pie chart, you need to make that decision. The other thing I think people don't quite get is that the older we are, the less time we have to wait out the market declines. it averages. I mean, I go back and look at 2000 and look at 2008. And in both those cases, if you had a well-rounded portfolio, it took anywhere from 4 to 6 years just to get back to even in those bear markets. You need to balance growth with preservation, like I just said. And then you need a reliable income stream. You have to create kind of your own pension so that you've got that coming in consistently every month.
And could you talk a little bit more about that, how retirees create reliable retirement paychecks from their savings?
Absolutely. I mean, we have multiple areas of income sources, right? We need to create that and coordinate that. So Social Security is, most everybody going to get Social Security. Some people have a pension. And between those are sources of income we're going to have coming in. But we're going to be spending money, and typically people are going to have a shortfall. So we have to create a plan to compensate for that shortcome. How can you do that? There's different ways to do that, right? There's some annuities that help out. There's having a good income portfolio that's going to create consistent income on a regular basis. So there's ways to do that. But one of the things that we need to look at in that process is make sure that we are strategically timing our Social Security. We need to look at that. When is the best time for you to take your Social Security? Because when you need to take yours is not necessarily when I need to take mine, right? So we need to make sure that we have a plan in place. When is the best time to take your Social Security? Investment strategies. What do we need? How do we need to invest? Everybody needs some growth in their portfolio. I get that all the time. Well, Philip, I'm too old. I don't need any market exposure. Well, I tell people, look, even my 90-year-old clients need a little bit of market exposure to help keep up with inflation and to really help buoy up everything when times are good. And then we need to have some income options available. And, you got to plan for inflation. We've had 4 years of rough inflation. And that's really the first inflation that's been high in a long time. For a lot of people, it's the first time they've seen this kind of inflation at all. And so, but we need to remember that. We need to plan for that, Stephanie.
That's right. Definitely do that planning for sure. 863-877-1188 to talk to Philip Statler and his team at Statler Financial Services. That number again, and I will give it to you, but you can also text the word visit to this number as well. 863-877-1188. Give Philip and his team a call. Now, we're not sure when things will happen, when your life will come to an end. We don't have an expiration date on us, which makes retirement planning particularly challenging for us. So how do you help people ensure their money will last as long as they do?
Well, I think starting by creating that written retirement income plan. Statistically, Stephanie, only 30% of the folks out there have any kind of retirement income plan. And even the ones they have are in their head and not on paper a lot of times. So we need to have a written retirement income plan, a playbook to follow as we head into retirement. We need to know the amount that you're going to need in retirement. What's that paycheck need to look like? How much are we going to need to pull out of our investments on a monthly basis to fill that gap between Social Security and your pension and expenses? That we got to fill that gap. The other, we need to identify the sources of income that you have. Most people are going to have Social Security. Some people are going to have pension. There's some folks out there that have some rental homes that are going to create some passive income for them. So we have to identify what those sources of income are and to build that plan and put it together. Build some inflation preservation, and that's where, market comes into play. And then we have to regularly monitor everything, make adjustments so that we avoid the big surprises down the road. All this can be accomplished through our core retirement design. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. Spend 30 minutes with me on the phone to make sure that you're on the path to the retirement you always dreamed of. That number again is 877-1188.
I'm sure a lot of people don't know where to start. So how do you, Philip, how do you as an advisor, how do you help somebody develop a plan?
Well, we start at the beginning, right? We look at what are their goals, what do they want to accomplish in retirement? And we help them walk through that. Then the first step is the hardest step, right? What are we going to have to spend? What do we want to spend in retirement? What does that look like? And then we develop a plan around that. What's that going to look like? And what's the tax implications of that plan? And have we built that in as an expense on the other side? And are there ways that we can work together to keep you in that 12% tax bracket instead of the 22% tax bracket or the 24% tax bracket? What things can we do to help you stay and pay the least amount of taxes? And I think, that the whole income planning process really adds some confidence in folks' retirement, because heading into retirement, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we want to make sure we build a plan to take out as much of that uncertainty as we can. And that's really where we kind of start at, Stephanie.
Well, if you already have a retirement plan in place, why is getting a second opinion so important?
Well, because what I've seen in the past is that retirement plan is really, I call the junk drawer approach. I open the junk drawer at my kitchen, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of neat things that I may need at some point in time. And a lot of folks, that's the way they've set up their retirement. They've got a lot of accounts, and they're good accounts. But they don't really have a plan on how they're going to access those accounts. They may need some money this month. They'll take it from this account. They're going to go on vacation. They're going to take a long road trip. I'm going to take some money out of this account. But there's no consistent plan in place. And that's really where getting that second opinion, looking over your existing plan with a new set of eyes, can really open up the options that are available to make sure that, one, you're not going to run out of money. Two, that you're going to pay the least amount of taxes possible, not just today. Remember, sometimes it's better to pay a little tax today so we don't have to pay a lot of tax down the road. Those are things that we look at when we're, assessing a plan that's already in place, because those are the things that we make sure we put in our plans when we sit down with folks. So I think that's the key, Stephanie, and all that's built into our core retirement design. Folks, I know we hammer hard on that, but really and truly, I developed it because of what I saw out there when I would sit down with clients and what they had done. And I saw where they had some shortcomings. And so that's where we developed this core retirement design, to fill the gap, to look at what does risk look like in your portfolio? What do taxes look like coming down the road? And remember, when a spouse passes away, your tax bill goes up on the same income you have coming in. And we want to make sure that we've got a plan in place to deal with that as well. Give us a call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. I'd love to spend a half hour with you on the phone to make sure that you're on the right path to the retirement you dreamed of.
If you are in and around the Sebring area, call Philip and his team and talk about your retirement. Let him know you need help. I mean, if you need help, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Definitely give him a call and ask questions. He'd love to answer them for you. 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Or you can text the word VISIT to that same phone number. You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show, and we will be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan, or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show. If you've heard anything on the show today, or if you have any questions, call Philip and his team at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Or you can even go to his website and see what Statler Financial is all about. It's statlerfinancial.com. Planning for retirement can feel like a big deal, right? But who better to learn from than people who've actually done it? So today, Philip Statler is here to share 5 super simple retirement planning tips from real retirees. These are straight from people who've been there. Philip, what is tip number 5 right out of the gate here?
So tip number 5 is really, it's simple for me to say it. It can be hard to do. And I get that. I understand. But tip number 5 is live below your means. So spend less now so you can save more for later. It will balance out. You know, it is kind of about balancing, not sacrifice. Right? But if you can start now, living below your means, it's huge. It puts you so far ahead of everybody else. And let's face it, when you get to retirement, you're going to be living below what you were making when you were working. So you need to get in the practice of doing that. And I know it's easier said than done a lot of times, but that's one of the things that we need to work on.
That's a tough one, but very smart idea. How about tip number 4, Philip?
Well, tip number 4 is structure your savings. So what I mean, so save regularly, even if it's just small amounts. You know, like I said, it's put a little here, put a little there. Ultimately, it will start to grow. And what I have found is as it starts to grow, it starts to kind of snowball. And then you get excited about, oh, let's put a little bit more in there. Oh, let's put a little bit more in there. As you see that number grow and get bigger and bigger, you get excited. And it's like, I don't want to take anything out of there. I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to take anything out of there. So, you know, use the tools you have. If you have a 401k at work, max it out. Get everything the employer is going to give you. If he's matching the first 3%, don't put less than 3% in it. If he's going to match 5%, put every bit that he's going to match into it so you can get the maximum benefit out of it, because that's going to help grow your retirement accounts. And that's the key. I mean, we've got to grow our money. And so we want to make sure that we're making regular commitments to save. And I think today it's easier than when I was growing up, because you can do so much automated stuff now. You can set bank accounts so automatically, you know, so much money comes out of your checking account into your savings account every week or every time you get a paycheck. So I think that one is easier now than what it's ever been. You just have to set it up and do it.
It's nice. You know, we do that. My husband and I, we actually have a bank across town that we put his some of his check into, and it's across town. So it's not easy to get to. So that's one good way that a person could save. Just a little advice for me. All right. right, we're running through retirement planning tips from real retirees. It's the Statler Financial Radio Show. 863-877-1188. 863-877-1188. Now, Philip, what is tip number 3?
So folks out there are going to say, well, Phil, this really isn't a financial tip. It really is a financial tip in the long run. And tip number 3 is invest in your health. Stay active, eat well, get regular checkups, because here's the deal. Good health makes retirement so much better. And I got to tell you, I know there's a lot of folks out there that they don't like to get up off the couch. They don't like to exercise. They like to eat what they want to eat, and I'm no different than you. Those things are, I like to splurge every now and then and eat a lot of sweets, or, it's a holiday time sometimes and I'll go overboard, but you got to bring yourself back, because man, if you are not healthy, it gets expensive. The amount of medical bills, they start to add up, and the time away from being able to do what you want to do is significant. So do what you can to stay healthy. Be active, because here's the deal. Activity, being active, staying active, always moving, folks, that you just don't realize how many years that will add, not just to your life, but how that will keep you out of that assisted living or out of that nursing home down the road, because you've kept those muscles and you've kept those things moving in the right direction. It just makes life so much better, not just retirement, but life in general so much better. So invest in your health. It will pay you back immensely.
And it makes healing quicker, too, when you get
Absolutely.
sick. So very, very good tips. Let's do number 2 now, Philip. So we're talking about retirement planning tips from real retirees. What is number 2?
Tip number 2 is don't rush into retirement. So you say, well, and when I'm ready to retire, I'm ready to retire. I get it. But extra time at work, folks, it lets you save more money and plan better, right? So I would rather see you work a couple extra years and know that, hey, I'm set. I've got more than I think I'm going to need in retirement. I've added 2 more years to my Social Security benefit. I mean, there is all kinds of pluses to working a couple more years. And especially, I know this is hard, but especially if you want to retire at 62, I encourage you, I implore you really to run the numbers. Wait at least 3 more years. Wait until you qualify for Medicare. You don't realize what health insurance costs you from 62 to 65. It's the number one reason folks do not retire early. Don't overlook it. Don't rush into retirement. It's going to be there when you're ready. And it definitely works out better in the long run.
Some great tips. All right, you were listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. You can call Philip and his team at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to talk to Philip. And the number 1, let's do number 1 right now for retirement planning tips from real retirees.
So tip number 1 is what you would expect it to be. Start early. Start saving early, even if it's only a small amount, because those small amounts grow over time. Compound interest is your best friend. Starting when you're a teenager or in your 20s, always putting money away and never stealing from yourself will put you way ahead of so many people out there. You would be surprised.
Philip, what about people who have already retired? Maybe they worried they've gotten off course. When is it too late to course correct?
Well, Stephanie, I don't think it's ever, well, I can't say ever. Ever is like never, right? That you just don't ever use those words, because there are times that things come up that you cannot course correct. But generally, there are ways to correct the course you're going. Maybe it's changing the investment portfolio. Maybe you have to reduce the amount of money you're taking out for a little while to let things recuperate. But I think if you're already retired, it makes a lot of sense to sit down with us to make sure that the plan you have in place is the right plan for you, and to take a look at where you are right now and see and make sure that the money you have is going to last the rest of your life. It just makes sense. And again, it's a phone call. It's convenient. It's easy for you to give us a call and let's have a conversation of where you are right now and what are your biggest concerns? What keeps you up at night? What things are really and truly weighing on you and your current retirement? Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to help you. You know, like I said, it's one of my main goals is to help folks have the best retirement they could ever dream of here in Central Florida. And to do that, it means we have to sit down and talk to people. And so we'd love for you to be one of those folks to give us a call. And let's start that process. And let's put a plan in place for you to make sure that you are going to have the retirement you always dreamed of. That number one more time, 863-877-1188.
We have less than a minute, but can you tell us a little bit more about your core retirement design that you offer?
Absolutely, Stephanie. Our core retirement design looks at three key aspects of planning. One is risk analysis. What is your portfolio's risk score, and how does that relate to your risk score? And making sure that they're not too far apart. And it's not unusual that they will be. You know, people that are in retirement, their risk score usually is somewhere in the high 40s, low 50s. And it's not unusual for them to have a portfolio in the 70s. And that doesn't sound like a big difference, but when it comes to risk, that's a big difference. We look at taxes and putting together a tax plan that helps them reduce their overall taxes throughout their lifetime and their beneficiary's lifetime. And then lastly, we make sure we put together an income plan that says, here's how much I can take out of my plan, and it will still last me the rest of my life. And that's key, is having that plan and coming back and looking at it on an annual basis to make sure we're still on track. It's that simple, folks. I'd love to help you get started. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. 863-877-1188.
It's been a pleasure, Philip. Thank you.
I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to everybody next week.
All right, we'll be back next week for more of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Have a good weekend.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.